Assassin's Creed Odyssey released an update, I believe it went live yesterday, for the Discovery. This is actually free. You don't have to buy the season pass or anything. And I do apologize if I sound nasally, I got a little bit of a cold, but regardless. The season pass for this, it's free to anybody who has the game. But you just go on a tour of ancient Greece, basically. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins did do this as well. Took you on a tour through ancient Egypt, which I thought was really amazing. Now, I do think this one's actually a bit longer, which is nice. It's combat for relation than anything, but it's something I've been looking forward to, so we're just gonna go right ahead, relax, and learn a little bit about ancient Greece. As soon as this loads. It's taking a while. There we go.
Here, visitor. You are about to embark on a journey of discovery through the rich and fascinating history of classical Greece. You'll become fully immersed in the painstakingly detailed world built for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which you are free to explore at your own pace, without any danger or time pressure.
Awesome.
For a directed experience, take one of the many guided tours curated by prominent historians and archaeologists. Along the way, exchange words with some of Greece's most famous historical persons. The classical Greece you are about to explore is at the peak of its glory. This period is synonymous with grand accomplishments of the physical and the mental. Architectural marvels which still stand today dot its landscape, while towering achievements in philosophy, political systems, and art still influence our modern society in profound ways. We hope you become engrossed in the dazzling riches of ancient Greece and welcome you to your visit.
All right. Let's see. Where am I gonna start? Probably over here. What am I playing as? If that's Cassandra.
Greetings, wanderer, and welcome to the Acropolis, the shining jewel of Athens. The Acropolis of Athens is a bastion of art and culture worthy of the gods themselves. Within this citadel, you will find many important sacred buildings, as well as some of the most magnificent art in all of Greece. You are in for a very enlightening visit. When you're done, come find me, and we can discuss the things you have seen. Farewell for now.
Seems kind of weird. I played as Cassandra through the entire, my entire gameplay of this, and now she's going on a tour.
The Acropolis has gone through many changes in its long history. It began as a simple rock, was settled as early as the Neolithic period, and then became a fortress in the Mycenaean period. Stone buildings started appearing in the 7th century BCE. But the famous structures whose ruins remain visible today date mainly from a period of construction in the 5th century BCE. The location of the Acropolis is closely tied with Athens' foundation myth. Supposedly, it was the site where Athena and Poseidon competed for the city's patronage. This connection gave the Acropolis a sacred aura, and it was considered the religious heart of the city.
All right. Let's see what's next.
The Temple of Athena Nike was built on the remains of old fortifications from the Mycenaean era. Worship at the temple can be traced back to the 6th century BCE, but the building itself was destroyed during the Greco-Persian Wars a century later. It was rebuilt during the Peloponnesian War. Given that the name Athena Nike roughly means Athena of victory, it was likely constructed in the hopes that Athens would win the war. Unusually, the temple depicts historical scenes of battles against the Persians instead of the more mythologically inclined art of other Greek buildings. The temple's priestess was chosen randomly among the Athenians and received a salary of 50 drachmae annually, along with skins and trophies from sacrificed animals.
Interesting. So, does that mean like the Nike brand shoes are called victory shoes? Sorry, that was probably really bad. Discovery sites. There are discovery sites all over the world. Interact with them to learn more about ancient Greece. And they are hidden throughout the world. Okay.
The Acropolis was built up over a long period, due in no small part to its partial destruction during the Greco-Persian Wars. It was in the 5th century BCE, though, that the Acropolis received its most significant improvements. This period was an extremely prosperous time for Athens, both financially and culturally. With a booming economy bolstered by trade and the Lavrion silver mines, Pericles, the leader of Athens, financed a huge project to rebuild the citadel. He enlisted the help of renowned artists, like the sculptor Phidias, as well as the architects Iktinos and Callicrates. Together, they erected buildings like the Parthenon and the Propylaea Gateway. Pericles' goal was to make the Acropolis into a glorious monument to the gods and to mortal Athenians.
Huh. Just looking around and seeing if there's anything of significance there. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. Discovery site uncovered the priest house. So let's take a look here. Okay, in ancient Greece, priests and priestesses were either designated or elected from among citizens and clerical families. They performed sacred rituals on special occasions like festivals or when otherwise required. Priest houses are often linked with the priesthood, but priests did not actually live in them, preferring to stay at their own homes in the city's residential quarter. Instead, the main purpose of the priest house was to provide priests with the space to carry out their rituals during specific days on the religious calendar. Priest houses were considered to be sacred, or too sacred, for the mundane activities of daily life, and priests had to perform purification rituals, such as a period of chastity, I'm not sure how to say that exactly, before they were allowed to enter. See image description. Priests in a sacrifice scene on a red figure bell crater attributed to the Podhos painter. Holy moly, that was a tongue twister. Alright. Hey, unlocked Phoebe. Alright. Is there any more? Oh, looks like there's a few more up here. Okay.
Behind the Propylaea was the giant bronze statue of Athena Promachos, or Athena who fights on the front lines. That name was reflected in the spear and shield the statue held in its hands. It was erected in the mid-5th century BCE by the artist Phidias. According to an inscription, it cost almost 500,000 drachmae. At approximately 10 meters tall, the statue was apparently so large that Pausanias claimed its helmet and spear tip could be seen from the sea near Cape Sunion, 60 kilometers away.
Wow.
The ornamentation on the statue's shield was engraved by the metalsmith Mies.
That's a big statue. Alright, there was a landmark here. Where was it? On Earth, was it? Oh, there it is. Hiding. Alright, Athena Ergane, I guess is how you say it. Huh. Interesting. Oh, there's 76 of these. Holy cow. And the next guided tour.
The Araphoroi
Hi,
were young
Sandra,
girls
and
between
thank
the
you.
ages of 7 and 11 who were in charge of special rites. A list of 4 girls was drafted by the Assembly of Citizens, from which the High Magistrate, the Archon Basileus, chose 2 to serve as Araphoroi for the year. The girls lived in a house on the Acropolis.
I am doing well,
They
thank
were in
you.
charge of
I
carrying
do have a
sacred
little bit of a
objects
cold
and
today.
weaving the peplos of Athena. The peplos was a sacred robe offered to Athena during Panathenaea, a festival held in her honor.
Okay, we're actually going to do this one again, and I'm just going to be quiet during the whole thing.
The Araphoroi were young girls between the ages of 7 and 11 who were in charge of special rites. A list of 4 girls was drafted by the Assembly of Citizens, from which the High Magistrate, the Archon Basileus, chose 2 to serve as Araphoroi for the year. The girls lived in a house on the Acropolis. They were in charge of carrying sacred objects and weaving the peplos of Athena. The peplos was a sacred robe offered to Athena during Panathenaea, a festival held in her honor.
There we go. Uninterrupted. All right. Okay, there's a few sites up here. Oh, there's a lot up here. Okay. So yeah, Sandra, so what I'm actually doing right now, the Discovery Tour is just more of a guided simulation. So there's not really going to be a lot of gameplay in here. So hopefully that doesn't bore you too much. And thank you very much. I'm really trying. Alright, let's see what we got here. So, Olive Tree of Athena. Let's learn a little more about this. I'm intrigued. Let's see. Today, an olive tree grows on the western side of the Erectheon. I'm not sure how to say that. Although it was planted in 1952 by members of the American School of Archaeology, it is conveniently believed to have descended from a sacred olive tree planted during the foundation of Athens. Huh. Myth says that when Athena and Poseidon competed to become the patron deity of the new city, they were required to bring gifts to its citizens. Athena struck the Acropolis with her spear, and the sacred olive tree sprouted from the ground. For these reasons, ancient Greeks thought that Athenian olive trees were the holiest of all Hellas. Not sure if I'm saying that right either. Herodotus and Pausanias both report that the Persians burned the tree in 480 BCE, only for it to grow again from its ashes on the very same day. The miraculous revival is the archetype for all other subsequent resurrections of the tree. And the images that you see here, bronze coin of Athens depicting Athena standing beside an olive tree on the reverse. Huh. Very interesting. Alright. Looks like there's something over here. Oh, right there. Alright. Don't know if I'm gonna read this entire thing, but leave it here just for a minute. see what else. Got there's one up here. Altar of Athena. Okay, we're actually gonna look at this one. Let's see. Okay, the most important element of ancient Greek cults was the sacrifice to gods. Consequently, the most important structures were the altars where the sacrifices were slaughtered and burnt. Therefore, the great altar of Athena, Polias, the patron deity of Athens, was the holiest and most significant monument on the Acropolis. The exact location of the altar is unknown, but it seems that it was erected to the east of the Erechtheion. Oh, goodness gracious, I'll never get that. In the northernmost sacred part of the Acropolis. While other buildings were frequently dismantled and erected anew, the altar's position did not change for hundreds of years. In Pericles' time, the altar built circa 525 BCE by the sons of the great tyrant Pestistros. I know, right? A lot of tongue twisters in the Greek language. Was probably remodeled as an impressive stepped structure so that it could easily host sacrifices as large as the Panathenea festivals. Oh, good lord. We'll just say Hecatomb, which involved the slaughtering of 100 cattle. Oh, good lord. It's early. As implied by its name, which we're not even going to attempt that. In the image here, it says Athena Polias fully armed in front of a small burning altar on a neck amphora of the Panathenaic shape attributed to the Princeton painter. Thank you. I am trying so hard. This is different. Okay. Now you can actually unlock new characters by doing these discovery sites. That's why I'm trying to find as many as I can. Alright. Priesthood. So we're not really going to look into that too much. Let's see. Alright, I think I'm just going to do this one here.
The Erechtheion was an atypical temple. It was dedicated not only to Athena Polias, but also to Cecrops, the mythical founder of Athens, his son Erechtheos, and even Poseidon, the sea god who challenged Athena for possession of the city. The temple was divided into sections. The eastern part housed a statue dedicated to Athena, while the western section jointly belonged to Poseidon and Erechtheos. Meanwhile, King Cecrops' grave was believed to be under the caryatid porch. Under the temple was a crypt that was said to contain the sacred snakes of Athena. The snakes may have had a sweet tooth because the priestesses of Athena allegedly fed them honey cakes.
Huh. I don't get how these narrators can pronounce these so well. Okay. There's one over here that I missed, alright. Let's take a look at this. Oh boy, that's a long read. Alright. Okay. Let's see if there's something over here. I think there's something up here. I guess not. Okay. Okay, let's look at this one here. Okay, Sandra, not a problem. Thank you for joining me this morning. I probably will do more of these guided tours because the Assassin's Creed Origins actually had a discovery tour as well, but it was much shorter. So I think I might do this in a few parts because this is supposed to be a lot longer. We shall see.
The Parthenon is one of the most well-known buildings in the world and an enduring symbol of ancient Greek civilization. While it is located on the Acropolis, the building is not a traditional temple. It was built by the sculptor Phidias and the architects Callicrates and Ictinus as a great monument to the glory of the city of Athens. That glory is evident in its many carvings. One of the most carved monuments in Greek architecture, the Parthenon's decorations depict several mythological scenes. These include the birth of Athena, her fight against Poseidon for the patronage of Athens, the gods' battle with the giants, and the procession of the great Panathenaea.
I'm just gonna... Oh, that was a long fall. I'm actually just gonna jump right down here. See what this is. Music. Okay. Music was everywhere in ancient Greece, and we wanted to reflect this in the game. Okay, so this is more about the game than anything. Musicians played in the sanctuaries, Olympics, in the villages and cities. Music had many uses, including singing and playing during ceremonies, creating rhythm during combat training, and for entertainment. Working closely with our musicians in the UK, Canada, and Greece, we created original songs that reflected important moments in the story. Instrumental music to provide entertainment throughout the world, and ancient Greek sailor songs for the boat. That's actually my favorite part. Let's see, the image here says inspired by the art of Assassin's Creed Odyssey by Kate Lewis with courtesy from Titan Books. I don't think I have that book actually. Photo mode. The bravest they'll fight to the grave. Alright, let's get back on track. On Earth. It's gonna be one of these, huh? One of these mazes. Oh, there we go. Look at this. Alright, well, I'm actually going to go ahead and read this. What the heck? So the Panathenaea was the most important religious festival in ancient Athens. It was held each year at the end of July and beginning of August. Every 4 years, the festival was celebrated on an even greater scale. This was known as the Great Panathenaea. According to some scholars, the Great Panathenea was expanded from the Lesser Panathenea by the tyrant Pestistros in 566 BCE to serve as Athens' own version of the Olympic Games. Interesting. The celebrations included a day procession of Athenian citizens and resident aliens, athletic games, music, and rhapsodic contests, whatever that is. Night procession with a torch relay race, great sacrifices, and communal feasting. The festival was so important to ancient Athens that many iconographic, sculptural, and written testimonies of the celebrations were preserved. Furthermore, numerous Panathenaic amphoras, or containers, were discovered all over the Greek world. They were great vessels filled with the most expensive Athenian olive oil, and were awarded to the winners in the Panathenaic Games. The amphoras were decorated with specific scenes such as young men running or Athena Promachos wearing military equipment, and they could be sold by the champions for significant amounts of money. Alright. Let's see. So we're almost done here.
The Parthenon's inner chamber, or cella, contained a massive statue of Athena that was considered to be one of the sculptor Phidias's greatest masterpieces. The statue was chryselephantine, a combination of gold and ivory. To justify the steep cost of its construction, Pericles told Athenians that the statue was a gold reserve, which could be disassembled in times of economic distress. The cella also allegedly contained a pool, whose main purpose was to control the room's humidity, which helped preserve the statue's ivory.
I wonder if, because I saw this a lot in Origins, if those pools serve the same purpose, but I don't think I remember. Whoops. Okay, so that's at the other side of that. Alright. Very long walk. Alright, there we go. Alright, looks like this is the last one for Athens, or the Acropolis of Athens.
Athens' treasury was located in the Parthenon, where it was believed to be protected by Athena herself. The treasury contained objects of great value, acquired from different conquests, as well as a mass of minted silver coins and various offerings to Athena. Pericles also decided to move the entirety of the Delian League's treasure to the Parthenon in 454 BCE. This was a great testament to Athens' power over the rest of Greece. The riches were divided into two parts: the Demosia, which belonged to the city, and the Hiera Cremata, which was dedicated to the goddess and only used for religious purposes.
Alright, so it looks like that's the end of this guided tour.
And what did you think of the Acropolis? It truly is quite something, isn't it? A sacred sanctuary and an architectural marvel, all in one. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Tour quiz. Oh, okay. This is different.
You're confident enough for a test?
Why not?
Very well. Let us see how much you know. Which two gods competed for Athens' patronage?
It was Poseidon and
Correct.
Athena.
It was Poseidon and Athena who fought for Athens' patronage. As for who won, the answer is in the city's name. On to the next question. Who sculpted the statue of Athena in the Parthenon?
was Phidias? I think.
Correct. The renowned sculptor Phidias made the statue, which was considered one of his masterpieces. And now, the final question. Which king's tomb was believed to be under the caryatid porch?
Kekrops, maybe?
That is correct. Kekrops was the mythological first king of Athens, and his tomb was said to be under the Erechtheion. It seems you know much about this place. Well done, Wanderer. Very well. On to the next door.
Woohoo! Alright, see what's next. Tour completed. Look at something here. Characters. This is what I want. Oh, I got Alexios too. All right. I think I'm going to... Yeah, I'm going to switch. I'm going to go to Alexios, the mercenary Alexios. Perfect.
Welcome, traveler, to the ruins of Mykine. My name is Herodotus, and I am a traveler from Hyrcanassus. I retrace the cause of various events, such as wars and great calamities. I describe what I see and record what I'm told, all with the aim of providing a better understanding of why these things occur. Look for me to introduce you to many sites. These are the ruins of Mykine, center of the old Mykenean civilization. It was home to great warriors and heroes. In many ways, places like Athens and Sparta stand on the shoulders of its accomplishments. This tour will take you through its ruins and introduce you to its most important monuments, revealing its history in the process. I hope you enjoy yourself. I'll be waiting for you at the end of your visit.
Alright. Let's get this thing started. See, I think I'm going to have to do this in a few parts. Alright. First part. Let's see.
The Mycenaean civilization flourished in the Late Bronze Age between 1600 and 1200 BCE. During this period, it was mainly located in the Peloponnese and central Greece. Mycenaeans were known for exploring distant lands. Notably, they battled the Hittite-allied city of Walusa in a conflict that was believed to be the inspiration for Homer's Trojan War. But the Mycenaean people didn't only travel to fight. They learned much from their neighbors, the Minoans of Crete, such as how to write syllabic script on clay tablets. Such tablets provide evidence that Mycenaeans spoke an early form of Greek. They also tell of how great Mycenaean kings ruled over their warriors from opulent palaces in places like Mycenae, Thebes.
Very interesting. Alright. there's any discovery sites. I'll come back to this one. Okay. So there is a couple. Oh, it looks like one right there. Okay.
The entrance to Agamemnon's Citadel, or the Lion Gate, is one of the most iconic monuments in Mycenae. It is impressive for both its height and for the intimidating rendering on its relief, which depicts two lions standing on either side of a column. Unfortunately, the lions' heads, which were presumably made of a precious metal or higher quality stone, have been lost to time. The gate was most likely meant to greet a triumphant king returning home from successful military campaigns and to awe foreign visitors.
All right. Next chore. Hold up. I'm gonna do a little side trick here. Of the site. Okay. There are several legends regarding the founding of Mycenae. The most popular story involves Perseus, the great hero and slayer of Medusa. After Perseus unintentionally killed his grandfather, he exchanged realms with his relative Megapenthes. When he arrived in his new lands, he dropped the cap of his sword scabbard called Myces in Greek. Interpreting the event as a good omen, Perseus decided to build a city. In another version of the story, Perseus picked up a mushroom, also called Myces, and drank the water that flowed from it. His thirst quenched, the hero decided that the land from which the mushroom grew was a suitable place to establish his new capital. Alright. Let's see.
When these shafts were discovered by archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann in 1876, he believed the 6 gold-filled graves to be connected with the family of the great king Agamemnon, even going so far as to proclaim a gold mask he found within to be the death mask of Agamemnon. However, this was refuted by later excavations, which showed that the 19 bodies buried in the shafts dated back to a few hundred years before Agamemnon was even born. In fact, at the time of the body's burial, the Lion Gate and the citadel walls had not even been built yet. It's estimated that the people in the graves were members of the first Mycenaean dynasty. The graves later became a place of worship for Mycenaean kings, who raised walls to protect them. These walls helped preserve several incredible artifacts, including women's jewelry, death masks, and masterfully crafted weapons.
Alright. Just looking around here, we can try to miss anything. Okay, there's a discovery site up here. Yeah, so this discovery tour has a ton of content, looks like. Just gonna do this one up here real quick. We'll just read this real quick. The exact causes of the decline of the Mycenaean civilization remains a mystery to this day. Competing theories include a violent invasion by Dorians, catastrophic earthquakes, drought and famine, trade disruption, internal revolts, or combinations of 2 or more of the above. What is known for sure is that almost all important Mycenaean fortifications in mainland Greece were burned down between 1250 and 1180 BCE. Just when Mycenaean civilization had reached its apex. The last clay tablets, written in Pylos around 1180 BCE, claim that a foreign attack was imminent, so it's easy to assume that violent events played a significant role in the civilization's decline. The fall of Mycenae was not immediate, though. Instead, it endured a slow, painful decline throughout the 12th and 11th centuries BCE until it was reduced to a rural community. Wow. Okay.
By 1250 BCE, Mycenae was at the height of its power, and its living quarters and workshops were numerous. Houses were built everywhere, from the top of the palace's hill near the king's residence, to the slopes and terraces within the walls, to the nearby hills outside the citadel. At one point, the citadel's walls even had to be enlarged to make room for more quarters. The people who lived inside the citadel were those with high status in either the military, religious, or administrative sectors of the kingdom. This is reflected by the ceramic and metal vessels inside the houses, as well as their painted plastered walls.
All right.
A traveler seeking an audience with the king would have first ascended a steep ramp from the Lion Gate to the citadel's summit. Here, they would have walked into the palatial complex through a grand entrance called the Propylon. Once inside, their gaze would immediately be drawn to the palace's main hall, a monumental area known as the Megaron. The vividly decorated Megaron, which glittered with precious objects and colorful frescoes in its heyday, was where the king would have received the traveler. If the king was feeling generous, he would have shared with the visitor the palace's most marvelous feature, its commanding and majestic view, which stretched from the plain of Argolis to the gleaming Aegean Sea.
Alright, this looks like the last one for here.
It was in this palace where a legendary Mycenaean king like Agamemnon would have held court. According to Homer and other poets, Agamemnon led the Greeks in the sack of Troy. Stories say that he was a fearsome warrior on par with Achilles, but also an overly ambitious and arrogant ruler. He sacrificed his own daughter, Iphigenia, to convince Artemis to grant his ship's passage to Troy. After conquering the city, he returned to Mycenae with mounds of riches, and a Trojan named Cassandra as his concubine. Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra, was not pleased with her husband's sacrifice of their daughter. She plotted to murder her husband out of anger. The plot was successful, and, depending on the version of the story, Agamemnon was either murdered in his bath by Clytemnestra or killed by his cousin Aegisthus during a banquet.
Wow. Talk about revenge.
You've completed the tour. I trust it was an eye-opening experience. Though it did not last, Mycenae was a sort of precursor to what would eventually become the Greek civilization we know today. It's important we remember them, if only to avoid repeating their mistakes. Now, what else would you like to do?
Take a
Then
quiz.
let's begin. First, I have quite a simple question. Which ancient city may have been the inspiration for Homer's depiction of Troy? Knossos was the supposed site of the legendary Minotaur.
Oh,
but
whoops.
it did not inspire Troy. Although I am certain the Trojans wished they had a Minotaur on their side during the war. Either way, try again. Yes, the Mycenaeans' conflict with the city of Wilusa allegedly inspired Homer's Trojan War. Now, for the second question. Agamemnon sacrificed his daughter Iphigenia to convince which god to allow him to proceed to Troy?
Apollo?
No.
I'm
Agamemnon's
not doing good at
sacrifice
this one.
did not appeal to Apollo. Try again. True, Ares was the god of war, but Agamemnon
good.
did not
I'm
sacrifice
not
his
good at this
daughter to him. Try a different answer. Agamemnon did not sacrifice his daughter to Athena. Keep trying.
Artemis.
Yes,
Why did I do that?
Agamemnon sacrificed Iphigenia to reconcile with Artemis, who then allowed his ships to pass to Troy. Now, one last question. What was the name of Agamemnon's Trojan concubine? Correct. Following the sack of Troy, Agamemnon sailed home with the Trojan prophetess named Cassandra. You've studied the ruins well, traveler. I appreciate your desire for more knowledge. Let us continue.
I think I'll do one more tour, and then I might have to cut it a little short today, but I will, of course, do more later. Alrighty. Time to change characters. I don't know if I'm gonna do mounts though. Oops. Sister girl.
Welcome, friend, to this especially sacred part of the Olympian Sanctuary. The Sanctuary of Olympia was dedicated to Zeus, king of the gods. It had close connections to the divine, as you will see very soon. I'll come find you when you're done, and we can talk about what you've learned.
Alright.
This workshop was built for the renowned sculptor Phidias after his work on the Acropolis of Athens. In 435 BCE, Phidias came to Olympia to begin working on the great chryselephantine statue of Zeus. He died 5 years later, shortly after completing his masterpiece. This grand statue would become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Phidias's workshop was located right next to the Temple of Zeus. Its structure has been well preserved, mostly owing to its conversion to a church in the 5th century CE. Archaeologists have also discovered lots of ancient materials in the surrounding area, such as casting molds and sculpting tools. The most famous artifact, however, is a cup bearing an inscription that aggressively states, "I belong to Phidias." This workshop in 435 BC, the Phidias archaeology most...
Sorry. Did that one already?
On the fifth and final day of the Olympic Games, victors attended a ceremony where they were crowned with olive wreaths and showered in flowers. The crowns came from the sacred olive tree of Zeus, which was planted near the god's temple. A young boy trimmed the branches with a golden sickle before giving them to the Hellanodikai to turn into wreaths. After the crowning ceremony, it was time for great feasting and celebration.
Let's take a look at this. Wonder if the little girl can climb. Oh, she can. Alright. Holding up their bodies is very important for athletes as they train and competed completely naked. Okay. Something I didn't need to know. The process served to soften their muscles, offered skin protection against the sun, and helped to regulate body temperature to avoid dehydration. Athletes stripped and then covered their bodies first with oil and then with fine sand. The use of oil on the bodies of athletes may have also had an aesthetic purpose. For wrestlers, it was also a functional choice. When oil bodies got covered in dust, it increased the grip on the opponent. Guess that would kind of make sense, maybe? Women victors. Although women were not allowed to compete in the Olympic Games, it was still possible for them to win the equestrian events. This is because horse and chariot races awarded not the jockeys or the chariot drivers, but the owner of the horses. The first woman to participate in and win one of these races was a Spartan princess, Kuniska. She won events in both in 396 BCE and in the following Olympiad, and her victories made her world famous. She even erected a statue of herself and her horses in Olympia. After her death, she was made a hero in Sparta, and a shrine was built in her honor. Following Kuniska, other women like... don't ask me how to pronounce those. Went on to win equestrian events.
Pelops was both a legendary Greek hero and the mythical founder of the Olympic Games. According to legend, Pelops fell in love with the beautiful Hippodamia. Her father, Oenomaus, the king of Pisa, disapproved of their union. Having once heard a prophecy that he would be killed by his son-in-law, Oenomaus was known to challenge his daughter's suitors to chariot races, killing them when he won. Still, Pelops was determined to win Hippodamia's heart. Before the race, he enlisted the help of Poseidon, who gave him a golden chariot with 4 winged horses. Pelops was able to win both the race and the hand of his beloved, while Oenomaus was dragged to death by his horses. The start of this famous race was depicted on the eastern pediment of the Temple of Zeus.
All right. Where are we off to next? That here.
The Heraion was a temple dedicated to Hera. It is one of the oldest temples in the sanctuary, dating back to approximately 590 BCE. The structure included columns painted with images of women who won the Heraia, an athletic competition made up of running events. Every 4 years, 16 women were chosen to make a veil dedicated to Hera. These women also organized the competition, though they did not compete in it. The Heraia was unique for its focus on female athletes, in contrast to the male-exclusive Olympic Games. Hera was the goddess of women, marriage, family, and childbirth. She ruled Mount Olympus as Queen of the Gods, along with her husband and brother Zeus. Many mythological stories paint her as being annoyed at Zeus's many lovers and illegitimate offspring. In Greek art, Hera is usually depicted as matronly and regal, often wearing a crown or sitting on a throne. She is also sometimes seen holding a pomegranate, a symbol of both fertility and death. Hera's cult was very popular across Greece, and Olympia even minted her image on its coinage.
There's something over here.
One of the highlights of the Olympic Games was a ceremony that took place on the third day of the festival. It began with a procession of athletes, ambassadors, Hellenodikai, and animals. The group made their way around the Altis until they arrived at the Temple of Zeus. Then the animals were brought in front of the altar of Zeus and offered as a sacrifice. This sacrifice was known as a hecatomb, a word that originally described the sacrifice of 100 oxen. During the hecatomb, the bones and legs of the animals were burned and carried to the top of a mound of ashes from previous sacrifices. Meanwhile, the meat of the animals was saved for a large banquet held later in the evening. The Olympic Games were dedicated to Zeus, and all the ceremonies and events were hosted in his honor. It is no surprise that the largest temple in the sanctuary was the Temple of Zeus. While most temples were restricted to priests, the Temple of Zeus welcomed all who visited Olympia. This openness was most likely meant to show off the gold and ivory statue of Zeus that stood within the temple's walls. The building also featured art depicting both versions of the Olympic festival's founding myth. The eastern pediment showed a scene from the legendary race between Pelops and Oinomaos. The temple's metapiece, meanwhile, showed the 12 labors of Heracles, the other mythical founder of the games.
Not part of the official competition, the first day of the Olympic Festival featured recitals and teachings from poets and philosophers. Because Olympia was a public space, it provided these orators an excellent opportunity to earn the ear of wealthy aristocrats with the goal of turning them into future patrons. Oral tradition was so important in ancient Greece that some Hellenic festivals, like the Pythian Games in Delphi, included orating contests as part of the official program. Oh, I unlocked Layla. Nice.
Zeus was the god of sky and thunder, and king of the Olympians. He ruled the world from his home on Mount Olympus. The child of Cronus the Titan, Zeus overthrew his father and cast the Titans out in a great battle known as the Titanomachy. He had children of his own with his wife Hera, including Ares, Hephaestus, Hebe, and Eileithyia. He also had many children without Hera, much to her consternation, but there are too many to list here. Zeus was believed to have control over the lives of mortals, as his many epithets attest to. For example, his title Horkios made him a keeper of oaths, while Xenios was the name conferred to him as a protector of hospitality. In Greek art, Zeus was usually depicted holding a thunderbolt and sitting on a throne, befitting his position as king. The Temple of Zeus was home to the chryselephantine statue of Zeus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The statue, made of gold, ivory, and wood, was sculpted by the renowned artist Phidias. At 13 meters tall, it was as impressive looking as it was difficult to maintain. Oil was used to protect the wood and ivory from cracking, and to prevent general decay. While the statue does not exist today, it was thankfully described by Pausanias in great detail, so its legacy lives on.
All right. Finish this one.
Hello again! I hope you enjoyed your visit and feel a little bit closer to the gods.
Well, as close as a mortal can get.
Is there anything else you'd like to do? Excellent! Let's see what you remember. Your first question is a simple one. Which goddess was Zeus's wife?
Hera.
Correct! Not only was Hera Zeus's wife, she was his sister as well.
But let's move on to the next question.
What kind of contest did Pelops win in his quest to marry Hippodamia?
Chariot.
Yes, Pelops won a chariot race, thanks to Poseidon's help. And now, the final question. What was inscribed on the cup found near Phidia's workshop?
I belong to Phidias.
Correct! Apparently, Phidias was very possessive of his things. Perhaps someone from the sanctuary kept stealing them. But I'm getting off track. Excellent work, friend! You honor the gods with your great wisdom. Farewell for now, my friend.
Alright. I unlocked the Athenian soldier. Alright guys, so we're gonna cut it off here for now, but I definitely will be back probably today. I have some things I have to get ready for this morning. But I should be back later today with more of this discovery tour. I'm enjoying it so far, so hopefully those who have watched or watch after the stream gets finalized, you know, hopefully you enjoy it. But anyway, that's about all. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. And I'll see you all later.